So have you seen it yet? The final ever episode of the Grand Tour? Well, I say the final ever episode, but you know, there's talk of it possibly carrying on. What do you think about that? I'll tell you what I think about that. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Grand Tour, Top Gear before that, and where all of this could go. But don't worry, I won't be giving away any spoilers of the latest episode if you haven't seen it. So this is more final thoughts at the end of an era.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
Right, so I watched the final episode of the Grand Tour last night, One for the Road, and it was brilliant. I wouldn't say it was one of the best, but it was brilliant. I mean, you could almost sense the energy kind of fizzing out of it. You could see that it was an end of term sort of, you know, let's just crack one last one out. But it was brilliant. I mean, the cars, the locations, the whole thing. You know, there were a couple of really obviously contrived situations, as there always are. And there were a couple of very deliberate attempts to offend the world or entire nations, as you always get. But so it was the usual stuff. But you could sense that it was the closing of an era. It was the end of not a chapter, but the end of a book, really, the end of a volume, really. This is after 22 years of, not the Grand Tour, obviously the Grand Tour is relatively recent, but 22 years of Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May doing this across Top Gear and then Grand Tour. And particularly the specials, which was what this was about, which is the things that was kind of unique to this trio, unlike any of the other car shows or anything else, was them sort of taking three cars, normally completely inappropriate and not great cars, on extremely adventurous and daring road trips across long distance, across continents and countries and what have you. And they really sort of set the tone for the last few years, so much so that when they went from Top Gear to Grand Tour after that infamous punch by a certain Mr. Clarkson, they initially decided to try and continue the format of the Top Gear show, but ultimately they just gave up with that and went, you know what, we're just going to do the specials, because that's what we're all about. And to watch the episode yesterday, you know, it really felt like, you know, this is the end of an era, and that we are losing something that is irreplaceable. It's not possible to replicate this, because these three guys, they weren't just presenters that were given this job to do. They were people that came at it with passion, knowledge, drive, for want of a better word. Admittedly, there were three middle-aged blokes, I should say, really, who turned their overgrown man-child antics into a cultural phenomenon. And that's why the appeal of these shows, first Top Gear and then Grand Tour, actually extended beyond just car enthusiasts, extended to a general audience. If you want to have something that's kind of similar in style and scope, if you've ever seen Gino, Fred, when they go off and they do their trips, the three guys, the three chefs go off and they do their trips, and they get up to some antics and some crazy stuff, and it's kind of similar. But a lot of it that you get from that show is not really about the countries that they're visiting. It's not about the cooking that they're doing or witnessing or whatever. It's about those three guys. And this is what this was about. It wasn't so much about the cars. It wasn't so much about the countries. It wasn't so much about what they were doing with them. It was the chemistry between these three people. And, you know, we've seen that time and time and time again, because ever since they left Top Gear, and then Top Gear tried to reinvent itself and brought in new presenters and brought in new people, and they just couldn't replicate it. They couldn't replicate the chemistry, the camaraderie, the banter, the love-hate bickering relationship that these three people had. They just couldn't find a way to replicate it. And not just in the main Top Gear, which I would refer to as the UK Top Gear, but if you think of the fact that Top Gear has franchise editions around the world. And as far as I know, and you can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because there are some in other languages in other countries and stuff like that, but particularly when I think of the American one, it never worked. It worked for the series, 2 series, 3 series, but ultimately it fizzled out. It didn't have that longevity that these guys have had over 22 years doing this. And I think that is, like I said, because of the chemistry and also because of the three quite diverse characters. Diverse, not in ethnicity, obviously, but in terms of the nature of these characters. Clarkson with obnoxious bravado, Hammond's lovable Labrador energy, and James May, like somebody who just wants to actually spend his entire life in a library and learn everything that's in there. This is the kind of differences between these two things, these three people, and the way that came together and gelled together and worked together and meshed together, so that you could watch three middle-aged men attempting to build a camper van out of a shed and then make it float on water. And all of that would somehow be more entertaining than an influencer going around Spa in the latest Lamborghini What's It. It just would be more fun. And you knew that they didn't really do the work. You knew that it was going to be a mess. You knew that the ideas were nonsense, but you went along for the ride. And that's ultimately what it was. You went along for the ride because you wanted to ride along with these guys because they're your mates, they're your friends, or at least you wanted them to be, and you just loved the banter, the bickering, and the craziness that was going to happen. For sure, it was going to happen. So, trying to, recreate this unique concoction of petrol, testosterone, and sarcasm in a future Grand Tour, I think, whatever you try and do, whoever you get in, it's just going to be a hollow imitation. It's just not going to happen. And I think that, like I said before, the lessons are there to be learnt from what's happened with Top Gear. And Top Gear ultimately now is dead. And to be honest, it's dead for reasons that, as you will know, because of one of the presenters was very seriously injured, Freddie Flintoff, in an accident that pretty much almost killed him. But having said that, Hammond had two near-death experiences when he was doing these shows. If anything, they helped the shows. But in this particular case, because it wasn't, I tried watching all of these rebooted Top Gears, and I would get like first episode, second episode, and that would literally be as far as I could get, and I just couldn't get any further with them, just because it wasn't working. And this is not just because I only see Top Gear as Jeremy Clarkson, Hammond and May, as some people do. No, because I used to watch Top Gear when it was way, way before Clarkson, when it was just William Woodard and Chris Gothi and, Sue Baker. So there was there's a lot of history there. And I think that, the mistake probably they made with rebooting Top Gear was to try and continue what Clarkson and co were doing, but with slotting in different presenters, even bringing a Hollywood star like, Matt LeBlanc. Didn't quite do it. Nothing against. I liked the Joey character. I was a fan of Friends, but I don't think it really worked. So where does that leave us? The Grand Tour, as I've said, I don't think it can continue because Top Gear has shown that. They may try and do it. They may try and bring some three. The guys themselves have said in interviews that they would like to see it continue. All three of them, Clarkson, Hammond, and May, have said, yeah, we'd like to sit back and watch it. Why have they stopped it? Clarkson has been on record as saying, well, I'm too old and too fat, to get into the cars that I love, and I don't want to drive the cars that I don't love. So he's literally like, I can't be bothered anymore. I'm too old to do this, and I don't need to do it. And then the other two are pretty much like, well, if Clarkson's not there, there's no point in them doing it. You can see that you can see that he's kind of run out of energy, let's be honest, and he's focusing on the farm thing that he's doing, which I haven't watched, but other people have watched it and they think it's brilliant. Not something that appeals to me. But you can see that May would probably like to continue trotting around in old museums and libraries and rebuilding old aircraft and stuff like that. And you could see that would probably work with him. And you can see that obviously Richard Hammond does the smallest cog, and he's building a whole. He's kind of his version of the farm, really. It's sort of built around him with the personalities that he's introduced, and he's sort of bumbling around trying to create a business. And it's kind of following a similar sort of theme. And you can see that would work. I don't think it's worked to the scale that the farm has. And again, that shows you why, without Clarkson, the other two knew or know that they can't continue with this. It's just not possible for them. But they've all said that they'd like to see new people do it, and I just think that's a mistake. I don't think that, they've said that, I think Clarkson has said that there should be 3 new unknowns to come in and do it. But, I mean, sure, you could do that, but the chances of that working, at the end of the day, you say 3 unknowns. Clarkson was not an unknown even when he started Top Gear. I used to read him way before he was on TV. I used to read him in Performance Car. He had award-winning columns in the back of Performance Car. His writing was like off the hook. It was just like, it was an inspiration. And so a lot of people knew him way before he actually came onto Top Gear. People already read and respected and knew what he was doing. James May was also a well-known motoring journalist on Car Magazine, so he was there. And he also had one bite of the cherry at Top Gear before he actually joined the Clarkson Hammond May team. Actually, Hammond came later, to be honest. So they weren't entirely unknowns. So to bring 3 unknowns and to expect people to immediately find them relatable and build a relationship with those guys, I think, or ladies, I think would be very, very ambitious to try and do something like that. Hey, are you enjoying this video? Then make sure you hit the like button. It's very important. Plus, comment, share, and make sure you're subscribing. So the point is that we don't really have a Top Gear. We don't really have a car TV show as such. And I've covered this in previous videos, where I think the reason being is because it's a bit like the way that magazines and magazine coverage and car magazines have kind of died. Because with car magazines, they would come out weekly or they would come out monthly, and a new car would be released, and you'd wait all month or all week to read about that car, in your favorite magazine or publication. But of course, the thing is that now we have digital media. We have people like, well, me, Brown Car Guy, that does YouTube. I mean, I do write, I do freelance, I do all that stuff, but also I have this channel. And whether through YouTube or whether Facebook or Instagram, if there's something new or breaking or important that's coming out, it'll come at you straight away. I mean, I'm recording this video a day after I watched the show, which was released yesterday by Amazon Prime, and I'm going to put this out shortly. So within hours, I'm going to put my thoughts together and put them out to you, whereas in magazine or newspaper, you might have to wait days, weeks, maybe even a month to get that. And ultimately, this is the problem. And I've spoken about this again in previous videos, but with TV shows, and I've worked on TV actually in Dubai, and for example, like we used to do a 15-minute review segment for Fox MENA Network in Dubai. And to shoot that 15-minute segment, 15-minute car review segment, we literally started at dawn, and we wouldn't stop filming until literally there was no more light left and we just couldn't film anymore. So it was like a full days of filming. And it wasn't because I was fluffing the lines, it was just because that's how much work needs to go into something that's being produced for TV. There's just a lot of work. And then of course, once you've done all of that, you can't just go home and edit it that night. That's going to take days, weeks to edit. There was one time I did a review for that where there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of me in the car. So imagine how much editing there were 5 of me simultaneously, because I was trying to show, I can't remember what car it was, but I was showing like how much space there was for people to sit in the 7 rows of the car. And so there were 5 of me in the car together. And so imagine how long that took to edit for TV. I've done similar stuff for YouTube, but I've just cut and paste. If you see the line, I don't really care. But this is TV. You can't see the line. It's got to be perfect. And that's the problem. It takes a long time. Whereas, with the stuff that we are doing, it's instantaneous. I can get a piece of news now and go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, let me post something, or let me do a video, or let me whatever. I can do it straight away. And so then you really have to question whether or not we actually need traditional TV shows regarding cars and motoring, because car enthusiasts, they have moved online. And online they can find also authentic content, and there's a huge variety. Right now, go onto YouTube. I mean, you want a review of something, you'll find it. A review of a car that you can afford, or a review of a supercar that you just dream around, you'll be able to find both of it. You want to see a Toyota 86 drifting around a mountain road, you'll find it. You want to see somebody rebuilding a classic car, you'll find it. You want to see somebody, what was the latest thing I saw? Somebody strapped into a car being dropped from a crane into other cars. I don't know what kind of nutter did that and why they would do it. I saw the footage, but if you want to see it, it's there. All you have to do is search for it. It's a click away. And there's no filler. There's no, there's no scripting. There's no contrived situations. It's just pure unadulterated car content that is coming straight at you by, made by people that are just literally are not being controlled or curtailed or orchestrated in any way by TV execs or producers. They're just like, I'm going to do this, done, bang, it's online, there you go. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, it'll die. Doesn't matter. And I think that's the thing. The digital revolution has completely changed the nature of the content and also how we consume it. And I think that the content, of course, again, with people like me, it's more personal. It could be niche if you want it to be, or it could be. I cover everything. Some people cover just one thing. It's certainly far more interactive because the enthusiasts can they can contact us. They can leave comments. They can tell us what they think of our work. They can give us instant feedback, and we can then respond to the feedback. There's a two-way thing going on here that you will never, you will not leave a note for Clarkson and Clarkson will reply to you. That won't happen. You will leave a note for me, and if I deem worthy, I will reply to you. So this is where it differs, and this is where enthusiasts get to feel like they're actually involved in the content to an extent, rather than just consuming it. And I feel that I think the whole era of that scripted kind of overproduced TV, I think is kind of done, and people just want authentic, genuine, instant content. Just real cars, real people, real interaction, no fluff. There it is. There you go. And whatever people want, they'll find a how-to guide or restoration or how to drive flat out. You'll find everything is online. So why are we waiting for a new series of a car show? Unless there's a reason to watch it. And in this particular case, the reason to watch Top Gear and then Grand Tour were, again, I go back to what I said right at the beginning, was Clarkson, Hammond, and May, because you wanted to see those guys. That's what it was. It's fandom, right? It's fandom. It's not about learning how to drive through Zimbabwe. It's not about how will these cars perform in the real world environment. No, it's about those guys. We're fans of them, and we wanted to see them do it, and that's what it was. If anybody else had done exactly the same thing, a fraction of people would watch it, and that's the reality of going forward with new presenters for Grand Tour and previously for Top Gear. But the good thing is that it's not that the desire for the content is dead. It's not that the passion is dead. It's just shifted to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. So anyway, in closing, what about these guys? We've got a hat tip to these guys. Especially to Clarkson. He redefined what automotive entertainment was all about. At the time when he did it, it was perfect and it flew, and he just you could not do anything wrong until obviously he punched somebody, but he couldn't do anything wrong. And I think that was partly what built him as a personality, as a character, as a superstar, really, in the world of automotive. And I think that's why people stuck with it. And he did some things where, put people off and people got angry, and there were people almost like, when you talk about canceling somebody, that kind of almost happened, and it probably should have happened in a couple of cases. But as car people, he's our superhero. He's our superstar. He's the one that we all sort of aspire to, look up to. We want to hear what he thinks, even if we don't agree with it. But it's there. He's somebody that we've all grown up with, reading, watching, listening to. So it's a very important part of that. And then along with him came these two other personalities, Hammond and May. And they've basically, through first what he revolutionized with Top Gear, turning it from a pretty straightforward, kind of dull, kind of serious BBC factual show into a full-on entertainment show, to then what he did with the specials, which was literally taking cars that were completely inappropriate and taking them on journeys that seemed impossible, but proving they could be done, despite appearing to be completely and utterly incompetent and unable to change a tire, never mind repair cars on the roadside. They have people to do that. And they did this, and they completely revolutionized it, and they've created this legacy, really, that I don't think can be replicated. And I think people on YouTube could try it. I think they could. And it'd be worth it because you don't need the kind of investment. It would still need a lot of money to do. Let's be honest. Anything like that needs a lot of money. But if you look, for example, if you see these shows that they did first for Top Gear and now for Grand Tour, and there was a hint of this at the end of this one. If you go, you can see it online, and you go behind how are these programs actually made. And then you see the convoy of all the other vehicles and support vehicles and staff and people that are actually involved in doing these programs. You see that this is a massive, massive operation. It looks like on the shows it's just 3 people with 3 cars, but it's not. That's the reality of it. So anybody trying to replicate that on YouTube and stuff like that immediately comes. It's not impossible. You can. I mean, you can a couple of GoPros and a couple of guys go on the drive. You can do it, but it won't be that quality or that level of production that we've come to expect from shows like this. So anyway, so goodbye to these guys. They took us around the world. They made us laugh. They made us cry. They make us drop our jaws in horror and sometimes disgust. but it's done. It's over. And you know what? That's okay. They've left a legacy. The legacy should stand. It should stand. It should be honored. It should be respected. But it's probably time to, like I said, close that chapter, close that volume, close that book, and move on. I don't think there is a need to bring this back with anybody else, you know. And if you're thinking that, it's fine, he's saying that now, wait until somebody calls him up and says, do you want to, first of all, that will never happen, you know, because it never happened. I am completely the wrong demographic and I'm the wrong color. But even if it did happen, I would say no, because it's just too daunting. And you know that you're destined to fail, to step into those shoes, to step into that thing which they have created. It's never going to be yours now. It's not even like Top Gear. Top Gear was created before Clarkson stepped in and he managed to take it because it wasn't actually built around one personality, but he kind of did. But these shows is built around their personalities. To step into those shoes, impossible. Ain't going to happen. Anyway, those are my thoughts. That's what I think. But I would love to hear what you guys think, and I'm sure I will do in the comments, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Check this out, guys. It's my book. It's my first novel, and it's written for car fans like you. It's a fun political action thriller. It's full of cool cars and spectacular action. Get your copy now at Amazon.com.